Help support AMTV by becoming a patron, an AMTV staff member, and following us over on Twitter. Hi there everybody, it's Adam Martin here, and welcome back to another instalment of the Now Review. And of course, we will be continuing the ever-present Now Dance journey by taking a look at the two releases that made up the year 2004. And as you can probably tell, there's a bit of a big difference with these two albums, that being their titles. Instead of being Part 1 and Part 2, you have Now Dance 2004 and Now Dance, 41 brand new dance hits. The reason why I lumber it in with 2004 is because, well, that was the year it was released. They're continuing the pattern of Part 1 being released the year before, so that is 2003, and that's 2004. We'll look at both of these albums individually, of course, so we will start with the first one, which is simply titled Now Dance 2004. So as you can see from the cover, they are yet again continuing the trend of the tube writing, that 90s-esque tube writing that I do adore so much, to be honest. And instead of one singular primary colour as the background, as it was for 2002 and 2003, we've gone for multicolours, a sort of weird rainbow effect, but without the green. So you've got your yellows, and your reds, and oranges, and pinks, and blues, and purples. And I must admit, it all looks quite lavish. It would have been cool if it had gone for the full rainbow effect, added like a little green in there as well, but for what it is, it does look quite nice, and it's the design I can definitely get behind. So let's flick on over to that all-important track list, of course, and see what we have on here. This is two CDs, as always. Okay, so CD 1, you have Ultra Beat of DJ Sammy, The Boys of Summer. What an excellent song that was back in the day. Danny Minogue's on here, having some of her hits. Benny Benassi. Satisfaction was such a big hit back in the day, wasn't it? Yes, all those great hits. This is 2003, of course, this was released, despite carrying the moniker of 2004. Melanie C's on here. Yeah, so that's CD 1, 22 tracks in total. I must admit, it's another one of those cases where the songs that I do recognise, I really recognise, and I think they're really banging tunes. Like, my favourite on here is probably track 2, which is DJ Sammy, The Boys of Summer. I do love the original by Don Henley, which was an 80s tune, of course, but to be honest, that remix from 2003 is sublime. And after 22 tracks of CD 1, we have CD number 2. Liberty X is still kicking it in 2003. Justin Timberlake with Cry Me a River, although I can see that is a remix. David Guetta makes an appearance once again. As I said in the last Now review, a lot of people think David Guetta sort of started, 2008-9, but he actually got, well, on albums like this in the early 2000s. The Chemical Brothers are on here as well, finishing with Richard X feat. Kellis. That's another 20 tracks on there, making up 42 tracks on this double album. And again, with CD2, there's a lot I don't recognise. I mean, bear in mind, at this point, I was only 7 years old, so I wasn't into like the hardcore dance scene. It was only really what was going up on the pop charts. So some of it I do recognise, but I think, again, they're pushing with this direction. Even though they've got like a popness to it, they're really leaning back to like more hardcore dance stuff, which I think a lot of dance fans would have appreciated back in the day. So I don't really have much more to say on this one, Now Dance 2004. In a way, it's sort of more of what we were getting with the previous 2 years, so Now Dance 2002 and Now Dance 2003. Sort of leaning less away from like more of a pop influence from the late 90s and more into hardcore or more like niche dance territory, I'd say. And don't get me wrong, I love that hardcore like dance specific stuff. It's a great genre, it's one of my favourites for sure. But I think that was the direction they were leaning more towards as the 2000s progressed. But that, of course, is just half of the journey. We now must look at the other album that abandons the part 2 and goes for a completely different title indeed. And that album is, of course, this. Now Dance, 41 brand new dance hits. I am really confused as to why they dropped the year 2004, even dropped a part 2, and just went with this, because, I mean, they've been so consistent all the way back from, well, the 1980s when the dance line started. This is like the first major time it broke away without giving us a concrete number. At least I think I'm remembering that right. All the others had at least a number to them. But 41 brand new dance hits. Maybe they were trying to do it as like a reboot. Maybe the part 2s of the past few years weren't selling as well. So they thought, well, if we don't call it part 2, it might do better. We'll have to find out. But first, the cover. It's gone for like this really pristine like club floor. If you look at the word dance, there's a reflection underneath it on the floor there, this orange floor. Orange is a nice colour and all. I mean, it's very orange. They still kept the tube design, so I'm all for that. They've kept that tube design. But I don't know how I feel about this one. I think the Now Dance 2004 cover is better, in my personal opinion. But I think it's all in the eye of the beholder. But yeah, there's just a bit too much orange for me on this one. But let's flick this one over to its all-important track list and see what we have on this one. So 41 brand new dance hits. Kylie Minogue's up there. Excellent. And Kellis with Milkshake, of course. Who doesn't forget Milkshake? One of the most iconic songs from the era. Blue is still making appearances. Justin Timberlake with Rock Your Body, which is quite interesting because Rock Your Body came out, I believe, in 2002. So the fact it was getting remixed and put on albums like this in 2004 had a good shelf life. I mean, it still does. Liberty X are here. Atomic Kitten are here as well, who were mainstays on the Now Dance albums, it seems. Some finishes with MC Jig and the Cha-Cha Slide. The Cha-Cha Slide. Now, I don't think that's the Cha-Cha Slide everyone knows, of course. If you listen to the Cha-Cha Slide that gets played all the time, it says the Casper Slide Part 2. This Cha-Cha Slide could very well be the original. I have heard the original Cha-Cha Slide. It's not as good, so it might be that version. But yeah, it's definitely on here. Come on, we all love the Cha-Cha Slide. And now moving on to CD2, you have LMC versus U2. Quite an interesting combination there. Ultrabeat are on here. Tiesto, of course, who is in a way one of the biggest names in like dance and trance music. And Kylie Minogue closes off this album just as she opens it. I think that's quite a nice symmetry that the same artist who opened this album also be the one to close it. And of course, Kylie Minogue, I think people forget how like big Kylie Minogue was. So that is the track list for this album. I mean, at the time they were all brand new dance hits, I'm sure. And again, like part one, there's a lot of them I do recognise, but then equally a lot of them I don't recognise as much. So it really is a pick your preference. One thing I realise we haven't done yet is take a look at the disc design of these albums. So if you allow me, I will have a look at what these discs look like. Okay, so here's CD1 of Now Dance 2004. Love again that minimalist design, just a white CD with pink text. And look, get your ringtones, everybody. Like I said in the last review, ringtones was so big back in the day and very expensive as well. And there is CD2, all the same. And that is just advertising your ringtones again. Your Mono, and polyphonic ringtones. And now let's have a look at the 41 brand new dance hits on CD. So the same design, very minimalist. I like it. And this one, interestingly, just says Now Dance. There's no year subtitle or anything like that. So yeah, this really does seem like they were going for some sort of reboot. Once more, it's all about the ringtones. Get them on your phone, either mono or polyphonic. Can't get that word out. And here is CD2, more of the same, just Now Dance, and more information about how to get those pesky ringtones. So that, in a nutshell, is your two Now Dance albums for the year 2004. And to be honest, it's hard for me to place these ones because, again, I think, for me at least, it comes across more of the same as the releases from 2002 and 2003, leaning more into the actual dance scene, which, you know, if you're a fan of it, you're going to love it. So if you're a fan of, like, 2000s dance, like the stuff that was really coming out in the dance clubs, you'll love it. There is a bit of pop in there as well, but I think as we go forward, we are leaning more in towards that dance scene. In terms of availability, I believe initially this was only available on CD. I mean, both of these I picked up for less than £1. You can see this trend happening by now. They're very easy to pick up on CD still. I believe you can download them as well if you so choose. But there was no other format alternatives. There was no cassette release and certainly no vinyl release. So yeah, my verdict is, again, if you're really into 2000s dance, you'll love it. But if you're expecting, when it says dance, to be a summary of the pop charts of 2004, you need to avoid it. You need the mainline numbered series for that. But that's all for this installment of the Now Review. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please remember to leave a like on this video and let me know in the comments, did you own any of these two releases covering 2004 on CD? Please subscribe to the channel if you're brand new for more Now content. And until the next one, I will see you guys next time. Thank you to our patrons for helping to support the show, and a special thank you to Macra, Hooks Media, Ben Freeman, Ethan Carberry-Holt, Bruce Danton, The Broken Kitsumanoid, Tobos Krotz, and Polsky Liz, our AMTV staff members.